Well guys, Ukraine hit the Russian military airfield of Kursk. The strike was carried out obviously from the Ukrainian territory the last night, and Ukraine used this time the ATACMS missiles, which by the way covered not a long distance, but the aim of the strike was to use the cluster munition warhead of ATACMS with lots of the shrapnel. Guys, sorry I have this video with a watermark, but here it shows the Russian defense, air defense in operation, but at the same time the ATACMS munition strikes the Russian airfield with lots of the cluster shells. You can see it over here once again, so not just a single missile was used. We see lots of the area, like the vast area is covered with the shrapnel. And we also have the video from the servicemen of the airfield. They filmed the air defense system in operation, so Russia has it over there. And they also filmed the shrapnel shells very close to their car, and actually I'm out of clue of how this car and how those workers survived, because it was happening really close to them, like few dozen meters, not more. You see that they have big Orthodox icons there in the car, so maybe some miracle saved them, those workers. The full video is available on my Telegram channel as usual. And we also have the confirmation that Russia definitely lost the radar of the S-400 air defense system, the most capable system Russian army has, and this is what is left after the ATACMS strike. This is the side part of the vehicle, the radar itself with a big hole, and the crew members were located inside this box. And here are those Russian military soldiers who were operating the system by the time of the strike. Russia lost many, including one of the main officers of that base. So after all, the information that Russia lost the S-400 system radar was correct. They lost it in this particular airfield, but as you saw in the video from the ATACMS strike, they still have some sort of the air defense. Not sure if it is S-300 or 400 because it's the long-range air defense system, but on the video the launch happened just before ATACMS strike, so I guess it's Panzer S which Russia put there. A short up to medium air defense system, and this is the airfield of Kursk. Actually it's the international airfield, but also with military capabilities. As you can see, Russia stores their fighter jets out there, including some of the Sukhoi 34 airplanes, so Ukraine now tries to use the Western-made weaponry to reach the Russian military airfields, and that was the main reason for Ukraine to obtain this permission to use ATACMS Storm Shadow elsewhere on the Russian territory with the maximum range. Well, Russia tries to move their airplanes out from the ATACMS range, sometimes successfully, but the effectiveness of their fighter jets drop if they fly from the further distance, because they may take in that case less payload, because basically they need to take more fuel. Guys, you probably know that I'm from Ukraine, but am I really Ukrainian? So I decided to take the DNA test to check it out. For that, I partnered with MyHeritage. MyHeritage is the leading global DNA and family history service. If you want to explore your family tree and take the DNA test to find out your origins, this is the best service. Everything is simple. You receive your DNA kit, you unbox it, you read the instruction, you put out the canisters, you unbox the stick, you put it into your mouth and roll over your cheek, you put the sample back into the canister, you pack it and send it back. Until you wait for the DNA results, you may download some of the images of your relatives, and if the image quality is kind of bad, the system will improve it. Also, they create fantastic animation, so I really like this feature. My DNA test result has just arrived and I little worry because I never done it, but as they say, it's time to explore your ethnicity. Okay, Dennis, you are... Who am I? I am Baltic, so Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. I thought that I'm Ukrainian, but 50% Baltic is quite a lot. East European 33%, so Ukraine, Poland and all of the nearby countries. At least partially I'm Ukrainian, as I thought. Scandinavian 8%, Sweden and Norway. Balkan 6 and 5. Never thought that I have a Balkan blood, by the way, for Scandinavia as well. Greek and South Italian. Nice nature, nice people, awesome climate. It's the surprise for me, really. So after all, I'm more Baltic than Ukrainian. Well, actually, there was the time that Lithuania was all around the place. Totally I have 5,410 distant relatives. Oh my god, such a big family. And there you may find some DNA matches, the people who might be your relatives. Awesome. Using MyHeritage, you may build your family tree. MyHeritage helps you to find relatives and documents of people in your tree. As you probably know, it's the Black Friday time, so MyHeritage has introduced a record huge discount for their products. Buy the DNA kit just for $29. It's the lowest price ever, and it is valid for the limited period of time. Also use my coupon code DENISBF for the free shipping. As a bonus, you must start the free 30 days trial of MyHeritage Best Family History Research. I was looking for the tool to find out about my family history for a very long time, and finally I found it. So I will order the same DNA kits for my family members and also for my friends, because why not? It could be a good gift. So guys, again, please check out the link or scan the QR code available on the screen, and that is how you support the job that I do here, because MyHeritage is the sponsor of this video. Well, in general, it's early to say about the results of the yesterday's ATACMS strikes fully. I hope some of those airplanes were kaputted with shrapnel, because that's the idea, to use clusters to not just kaboom some small part of the airplanes, but to cover the vast area. If the fighter jet obtains just a minor damage, it's no go. It's not airworthy without heavy maintenance. That's what happened, by the way, with the Russian Sukhoi 57 fighter jet that was kaputted by the Ukrainian drone. As you can see, there are also remote parking stands which are secured from the sides with those boosters. I guess it is Sukhoi 35, yeah, could be. But the strikes which happened on the airfield, judging on the video, were separated by the far distance, so I think that Ukraine hit this apron and also this part of the military apron too. Let's go to the place. I guess this is Sukhoi Su-30 airplane with the forward elevators, as you can see on this image. And this is the civilian part of the airfield, but it is not working for civilian purposes since the start of the war. Russia closed it, as many others, with NOTAM, so notices to airmen: do not fly to this airport for civilian missions. That's why for the time of the war we consider it as the full military airfield, so Ukraine has absolute right to respond on aggression coming from Russia, and especially those kind of the military airfields. And you know, judging on the targets Ukraine chose for this strike, like air defense systems, Russian airplanes, probably Ukraine plans to use its own aviation in Kursk more. For now, Ukraine tries to hold the ground in Kursk because there are many of the Russian attacks, but it's getting difficult without aviation superiority in this airspace. At the very beginning of the Kursk operation, Ukraine started to use MiG-29s with JDAM striking the Russian positions, but also, I guess, at least one airplane was lost by Ukraine. Well, for now, Ukraine has F-16s, and if it suppressed the Russian air defense in the Kursk region at least, it might open the new abilities for Ukrainian Air Force to help the ground forces in keeping the ground. And by keeping this territory of Kursk, Ukraine is also protecting itself. There are some of the good news for Ukraine relative to the Storm Shadow missiles, so UK will send more of those very soon. It is also because Storm Shadow could be used against the underground targets, bunkers, buildings, concrete constructions, and so on. On the other hand, ATACMS, which Ukraine now mostly has, is equipped with a cluster munition warhead, which is fantastic to use against the Russian military airfields if they are within the ATACMS range, obviously. As we see, Ukraine continued to strike the Russian facilities on the Russian territory using ATACMS and Storm Shadow, even after Russia tried to threaten the world with their ICBM, or it's better to say IRBM, so the middle-range ballistic missile, Oreshnik they call it. And I think it's the good move from Ukraine and from allies to show that they are not threatened by Putin demands, because Putin may always say, I'm gonna start the nuclear war, I'm gonna launch the missiles to attack your territory, just give me what I need. It is a clear blackmail of the Western world. I guess that West should be strong and not follow that trap. The Russian deserter reveals the war secrets of guarding nuclear base in Russia, so he escaped Russia, he is hiding somewhere abroad, and told the BBC about the situation in the rocket forces of the Russian Federation. Here Anton reveals that nuclear weapons of the Russian Federation were put on full combat alert at the very beginning of the war. And by the way, guys, I'm sure that that kind of the weaponry will work. I heard some of the voices like the Russian nukes are rusted, they do not maintain those, but actually from the information I have, those nukes are maintained, as well as delivery systems, ICBM. So Russia really put the effort to upgrade their weapon. That's why the United States of America also started the massive upgrade of their nuclear weapons, and the ICBMs for the possible delivery of those to Russia or to any sort of the other place, because Russia is not the only autocracy with dictatorship that has nukes. So it's better not to underestimate the enemy. The enemy is strong and it has some weaponry that, for example, Ukraine doesn't have. Ukraine basically exchanged that stuff for the piece of paper which is called Budapest Agreements. Russia may have some of the boost in delivery of the short-range ballistic missiles from North Korea because, according to the satellite images, the North Korea has increased the production of the missiles KN-23, which they sent to the Russian Federation and which are in use against Ukraine. Now they built a new hull which is 60–70% larger than the previous structure, so the capabilities for the North Korea to produce more missiles increased. But whether those will be delivered to Russia, well, I guess so. And you know what, guys, it seems like Russia doesn't really want to stop the war. Their intelligence chief Naryshkin says that Russia is not looking to freeze the war. He really says that. And before there were multiple similar statements of the other Russian officials like Medvedev, Peskov, the spokesman of Kremlin. All of they say that they do not want the other Minsk agreements. What they want is to this war to continue. The Russian regime looks like that predator which felt the blood and wants to continue with the victim. But you know what, there is some of the response from NATO on the Putin's threats. In their latest resolution, they endorsed giving Ukraine missiles with a range of more than 5,000 kilometers. We're speaking about the middle-range missiles between 1,000 and 5,500 kilometers. The Tomahawk missiles are within that range. It's better not to tell Joe Rogan those news. Well, it doesn't mean that Ukraine will obtain the Tomahawk missiles. As I've told you, the only place where those missiles could be launched from are submarines or ships. So I see it as a declaration to support Ukraine with the longer range weaponry. And NATO itself is not going to do it. No, they just called the countries to provide that kind of the weaponry to Ukraine. But no country nowadays is capable to do it because of the many reasons. First of all, political reasons. Well, honestly, guys, I don't think that Russia will be capable to attack with the present pace for the extended period of time. Judging on what I see on the front lines, like their convoys are being just annihilated one by one. Yes, they are taking the ground. They have more soldiers compared to Ukraine, because Ukraine is actively using roughly 300,000 soldiers in Ukrainian front lines, but Russia is out of the armored vehicles, so they start to use the usual vehicles, absolutely no armor, nothing, and we see more and more those kind of the average vehicles on the front lines from the Russian side. Plus you see the weather deteriorated dramatically, so the ground turned into dirt. That's why Russians need to use BMPs and tanks, the armored vehicles which are equipped with caterpillars, so the tracks, but Russia has already used the most part of those vehicles. They're definitely struggling with that, but again, Russia has more artillery shells, Russia has the air superiority, so they use their airplanes to drop the gliding bombs, plus Russia has more infantry forces, and that's how they're able to get the ground from Ukraine. We're gonna review the military map today, for example, Kurakhov direction, but even there, the situation is not good for the Russian army. Yes, they take the ground, but at the same time, they're suffering a lot. As the Russian channels reported a couple of days ago, the commander of the South Group of the Russian forces was dismissed from his position. The name of this colonel general is Gennady Onashkin. He rarely appears in the media, and he was the commander of the main Russian offensive in Pokrovsk and also in Kurakhove. He was dismissed by the highest Russian military command, by Gerasimov himself, for not providing the truthful information to Gerasimov. They also found out the equipment that Russia sent to fight was not used in a proper way. What does it mean? I don't know, but it's the usual Russian practice to send everything in a mid-waves. The Russian highest military command started to investigate the case after the Russian army bogged down in Selidova for many days. Well, not just that Colonel General was dismissed, but many of his colleagues and officers who were responsible for this operation. Russia has already appointed the new commander of the South Military Group, Lieutenant General Sanchik. He actually was the deputy of the previous commander, so do they really think that something may change in this case? Alright, Russian officials started to say that it was the planned change. Yes, obviously. In the middle of your operation, in the most important direction, you change your commander. Yeah, everything is planned. They just don't want to confirm the information that was spread by the Russian side bloggers, and usually they say truthful information in those kind of the cases. It means that after all the Russian plans were different and something is not going according to their plan. Well, my guess that Russia is just wasting way more resources than they planned. By the way, let's go to the military map update. So it was yesterday, this today, Russia gained more territories near Kurakhove, and they have even the small attack into the settlement, as I expect that this week Russians may occupy the vast part of Kurakhove. For now, as you can see, they sent a small sabotage group, which was in a way successful. Probably they've took a couple of the buildings, but Ukraine has the chance to strike them with the drones or artillery. The Kurakhove power plant located in this area was destroyed by the Russian aviation gliding bomb. Speaking about the Pokrovsk direction itself, so it was yesterday, it is today, just a small Russian army movement towards Petrivka. They will occupy this village very soon. And as usual, from what we see, they will advance from two of their directions towards Pokrovsk. It may happen even before the new year. Well, the good thing that for the last 24 hours, Ukraine pushed Russian forces out from Kupiansk completely. Before there was the small sabotage group, they actually went with the armored vehicles, so they left the armored vehicles. Armored vehicles were destroyed by the Ukrainian FPV drones, but there were some of the infantry forces, and Russia started to send new infantry mid waves. So all of that was cancelled by Ukrainian defenders recently. About the North Korean soldiers, it seems like we start to forget that topic. Well, there were many of the photos shared in internet with North Koreans who already were caputed somehow, but after the short investigation, people found out that it was just a Photoshop. Here again we can see the photo in some sort of the improvised Russian Orthodox church. You can see many Asian looking guys around, but it doesn't mean that those are North Koreans. There are many Asian nationalities live in Russia, because Russia is divided into the European part and the Asian part. We are now on the Aviation Herald website. Sorry about the advertisements all around. That's how this website works, and I don't have the ad blocker because YouTube is strongly against that stuff. Well, I want to tell you about the recent aviation accident that happened with Swift Air Boeing 737-400, which was operating on behalf of DHL. This is the registration number of the airplane, so somehow the airplane crashed before the runway. As it is reported, one pilot who was 48 years old, Spanish nationality, three of the other crew members, including the other pilot who was 34, one German, one Lithuanian, one Spanish, have been taken to the hospitals, so they survived. It was a cargo mission, so luckily there were no passengers on board. For now we know that the hospital reported that one of the survivors is in critical condition, so he is fighting for his life. The investigation has been started. Here we have more data of when it happened, what weather conditions were there at the moment, and we have also some of the videos, for example like this one. Let me show you. So this is the airplane filmed on the CCTV camera. For now it's fine, looking good, and somehow it plunged down into the ground before the runway. There's the fireball, so miraculously some people, as you see, survived that mess. This is the approach towards the runway, so airplane landed before the runway. I wonder why, because the visibility was more or less good at this low altitude. The trajectory of the lateral approach was straightforward, but if we speak about the vertical deviation, for sure it was there. That's why airplane impacted the ground. So this is the runway threshold, and this is the approach, final approach position, and this is the first impact position. I would say that it's a very strange case, because airplanes are equipped with alert systems, so if you deviate from the glide slope, you'll have the warning, and if you approach terrain, you have that as well. I'm not even speaking about the visual indication which you have on your flight instruments, so you need to be absolutely out of conscience not to react on that deviation. That's why I think that pilots were not able to react on that. It was some sort of the situation which they couldn't control. It could be the displacement of the cargo, it could be the problem with the flight control, many reasons which will be investigated, and obviously one of the reasons could be the sabotage of the airplane. Especially then there were reports that Russia planned the sabotage attacks on the European cargo airplanes DHL. This article was published around 2.5 weeks ago. I put my attention on the topic by that time, but I decided not to speak about it because I thought that it could be unrealistic, but the DHL airplane crashed in Vilnius, so in Europe. DHL airplane, Europe. Well, I don't want to speculate about the topic, but every sort of the cause should be investigated especially this one. From the CCTV cameras we do not see the kaboom, but there could be some of the smaller sabotage down to the flight control system of the airplane, especially programmed for the particular period of the flight, for example the final approach phase. Again guys, I'm not saying that it was the real cause, no. I'm from aviation myself and I'm sure that if it happened in Vilnius, the investigation will be done properly. They'll 100% find out the reason, whether it was the pilot failure, the technical failure of the airplane, the other factors, and the Russian factor too should be included. Alright, let's continue with the aviation topic. The greatest expert, Elon Musk, on his Twitter, or it's better to say now X platform, shares this video of many of the drones flying all together, commenting, meanwhile some idiots are building manned fighter jets like F-35. Trash. Yes, he definitely shows the drones from the China show and he wants to tell that stuff is more capable than F-35. And later on he wrote that F-35 design was broken at the requirements level because it was required to be too many things to too many people. This made it an expensive and complex jack of all trades, master of none. Success was never in the set of possible outcomes. Interesting saying, but basically what he says that F-35 is the junk airplane and it's better to produce many of the drones. Yeah guys, Elon Musk monks the most capable fighter jet out there in the world. I'm not a United States citizen after all, but for me it's frustrating to hear those kind of words relative to F-35, the piece of art, really capable machine. And again, he compares that stuff with the drones. The fighter jet with the drones. It's like comparing the dick with carrot. Yes, they have something in common, like for example shape, but carrot cannot make kids. So the only thing the drones have in common with F-35, they both can fly. You cannot replace that stuff with the drones, they do completely different job. Well, not just Elon Musk tweeted about the failed F-35, but also Matt Gaetz. The F-35 is failed platform, we should move away immediately towards drones. Guys, I simply do not have the words to describe the incompetence of the future team which will rule the United States of America on every level. And I just hope that they will not ruin the military of the United States as well as the country in general. Because on what we see from the social media, how they speak, well, they're completely out of ground and they live in their own bubble. Well, my guess that Elon Musk after all wants to start the production of the military drones. That's why he's mocking now F-35. Like, if it is the failed airplane, why would China copy it? Yes, this is not F-35, but J-35. It has exactly same forms, the only difference that it has two engines, because Chinese manufacturers couldn't produce a single powerful engine. But other than that, the shape and everything the same. Yeah, probably the Chinese military is really stupid to copy this airplane. And also Europeans are so stupid to order lots of the F-35s for their armies. There is the long queue actually to purchase those airplanes. That's why Ukraine obtained F-16s, because they are being replaced or will be replaced by F-35s. Even the Swiss Air Force is changing for F-35, and they will never spend their funds for the bad airplane. But Elon Musk is the only trustworthy expert out there. He knows absolutely everything, including the military aviation. Have so many questions to that person, but I think it's after all the doctor's job to prescribe something here. Commenting on what is happening in the United States, their officials, influencers, politics, is more like commenting a big shit show. I just hope that there will be some of the same people in Pentagon, in national security and other organizations like CIA, FBI, people presented in the Trump's team, but judging on who he selects, it's just crazy. Idiocracy is the best way to describe the further development, I guess. Well, anyways, we'll see how it goes after 1.5 months. My friends, and now please don't forget to check out my personal link for MyHeritage DNA kit, which you may get with a Black Friday discount just for 29 bucks. By getting this DNA kit with my link, you also support the channel and the job that I do here on YouTube. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.